Here's our host, Kevin Haugen.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon. Welcome into today's Community Comment. Again, I am your host, Kevin Haugen. It is my pleasure to welcome into our Daily Dodge TV studio this afternoon our guest on the program. It is my pleasure to have in our studio this afternoon Columbus Fire Department Chief Scott Hazeltine. Chief, thank you so much for coming in this afternoon.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
And if you have a question for the Chief throughout the program today, we'll be talking a lot today about his career here with the Columbus Fire Department, how he ended up in that role, talking about staffing, apparatus, as well as diving a bit into changing batteries and checking carbon monoxide detectors. This weekend's daylight savings time, so that's always a good time to make sure that those things are working properly throughout the program. So if you have any questions outside of those topics, you can call into the show at 887-959. Oh, see, I keep doing this. I get them crossed. You can call into the show at 885-4446, or you can text 887-9595. If you have a question. Again, the phone number to call in is 885-4446, or you can text 887-9595 if you have a question for the Fire Chief of Columbus, who is our guest on Community Comment today. But Chief, it's coming up here on the winter months. It's not too far away, so I think a lot of people think it's damp, it's colder, it's not as busy, but I want to say it's probably just as busy of a time for those in the fire service industry as the summer months would be.
Oh yeah, it's just recently until we got the rainfall last night. We were thinking about putting out a burn ban. I did put something on Facebook with the winds, just to make sure I put a message out through the DNR that I think it's back open again, but burning permits were canceled, postponed, and now I believe they're open again now. So it's always, we're watching the weather.
Yeah, I know. It's a good thing we've got some rain here in the forecast. It's been, the DNR had put out a lot of warnings and notes that, the fire danger is high throughout the state of Wisconsin. I believe Dodge County yesterday, I don't know if it changed today with the rain, but it was high to our north and Fond du Lac County. It was very high. So, yeah, it's definitely still a concerning time, even though it's winter's around the corner and it can get a bit damper this time of year. But we'll talk, if we have time for it anyways, we'll talk about some fall fire safety tips and just some things to keep in mind later on.
Yeah, they are back on low again. So
there we go.
That doesn't mean if we get windy days after this, it's only going to take a couple days and we'll be back at high again.
Yeah, it can change in a heartbeat.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, our guest here on Community Comment today, Fire Chief of the Columbus Fire Department, Scott Hazeltine, is our guest here this afternoon. And Chief, since this is, I forgot to ask this beforehand, but I'm fairly confident this is your first time joining us here on our airwaves, having a chance to chat with you about the Columbus Fire Department. So I usually like to ask guests for their first time here, just spend a little bit talking about your career and how you wound up as the chief of the fire department in Columbus, and just kind of the path you took to get to where you are today.
Okay. Well, I am not from this area. I actually, I'm originally from a little town called Judah, Wisconsin in Greene County. I went to school and graduated from Broadhead, and then I moved back to the Judah area where I got on the fire department, and people asked me whatever got you into it. Was the reason being was I saw a fire truck, a whistle going and a siren going, and then I saw a fire truck go out of town and guys standing on the back of it, and I'm like, I gotta try that. So after a couple big fires, after I got on, I was hooked, and this is where I'm at today. So I came here in 2004 with 25 years in. I was a chief, an assistant chief for many years in a town called Browntown in Greene County, and I was also quite a few years. I was a Greene County EMS commission, president of the EMS commission for Greene County. Then I came here and got on the department and was training officer and captain for many years, and then I'm a little over 3 years now as the chief.
So I guess to summarize, you wound up in the fire service industry because it looked cool. It's the bottom line. Look, seeing guys on the back of a fire truck wearing those that turnout gear, driving past, that was like, I need to do that for my career.
Yeah, just something I wanted to try, and then I was hooked after that.
Got hooked, fantastic. Now, did you always envision yourself in a leadership role? I think a lot of people, they don't necessarily start off unless they feel like they are born to be in a leadership role. Is that something that you sort of quickly realized is a path I wanted to take, or did you just sort of found yourself throughout your career in those opportunities, and as a chief of a fire department now in the city of Columbus, is that something that you just kind of always envisioned for yourself?
No, not really. I've always, whether I was fire department or not, I was always a person in school sticking up for the bullied people, always willing to help people. It fell into place for me. So I enjoy it. This coming spring will be 46 years I've been in the fire service. I retired from EMS in 2014 with over 30 years in that, and I just enjoy helping people. That's
Bottom line.
Yeah.
Fantastic. When it comes to being the fire chief in Columbus, it's structures of fire departments can vary wildly depending upon how they're built up in the state of Wisconsin. If you could just sort of dive in a little bit to that structure with the Columbus Fire Department, how it's built out. Is it volunteer? Is it full-time, paid on call? And your role in and of itself at the Columbus Fire Department. What does the chief role look like?
We're a lot of people in the area think that we're full-time, and we are not. I am, say, half-time, 20 hours a week, and the rest of the membership are paid on-call volunteers. So that's how we do. That's how that structure is, and then we have three we have a deputy chief, assistant chief, then we have 3 captains, 3 lieutenants, and a health and safety officer. And they all have their own job descriptions, and we've got the culture set up that everybody works together, and we have division meetings so we can do our planning and have teamwork, and I've set it up that I empower the people to do what they want to do. They just keep me in the loop. So I kind of, a lot of people probably know who Jared Fox is. He's our deputy chief and public information officer. So I know everybody knows him. So I let them guys do their thing, and I just stay behind the scenes and support them however I can.
Yeah, how important is that for a person in that leadership role to have faith in their staff, in this case firefighters in the Columbus Fire Department? How important is that you can trust them and you don't need to be that hands-on? You can step back, they can do their job, and you know it's getting done correctly.
Yeah, trust is everything in the fire service. Or in being an emergency responder, trust is everything. If you can't trust somebody, they're going to second guess if they're going on a hose line with you inside of a house. It's just, all I can say is trust is everything.
Yeah, and when it also comes to being the chief of the fire department there, how much does it also come to building relationships with neighboring agencies for mutual aid and helping out when they need assistance or when you need assistance? Is that something that you are spending time doing in your capacity as the fire chief?
Yeah, we go to we have territory in Dane County, territory in Columbia, and Dodge County. So we go to county chiefs meetings. Me and the other 2 chiefs do, and we keep the relationships going. I think we got a very good relationship with all our neighbors. And there's also a thing we're involved in. It's called MABUS, that's an acronym for Mutual Aid Box Alarm System. So we put each other on different cards depending on what we have for a fire or incident, and we're all helping each other out to survive, because with everybody working, a lot of people working 2 jobs these days, it's kind of hard to have enough staffing around to cover. Yeah, and it doesn't take. Back in the day when I started, you would just call the neighboring towns and they would empty out their stations, so that would leave those communities without any fire apparatus there or manpower. So what MABUS does, it takes about 20% of resources from another department. So the neighboring communities are not left without any help.
Yeah, that's so important to make sure that there's enough coverage for all these communities. And even so, when the Columbus Fire Department, I'm sure, goes out on a call, there's things in place, and I've seen this in some press releases that come out that say, we were busy fighting a fire at this house. We had this fire department come in and make sure that they covered any other additional calls that could come, because just because you guys are out on fire doesn't mean that everything else stops. There could be other issues and other things that come up that you guys would be busy with and can't respond to. That's why it's so important to have that MABUS system, as you mentioned, to have mutual aid, be able to respond and help out in those cases.
Yep, absolutely. We do that on there when we start the MABUS boxes. We have resources come and stay at our station, and they cover. And if we have to move up to the next box, that those resources come from the station to the scene, so it saves us time for help. And then we have another set of resources coming in to man the station. So the community is always protected.
Fantastic. We are chatting with, again here, the Fire Chief of the Columbus Fire Department, Scott Hazeltine, here on Community Comment this afternoon. You mentioned just a bit ago the trust that you have in your staff there at the Fire Department and how great of a work that they do. Maybe if you could just spend a few moments going into the staffing there at the Columbus Fire Department. I don't want to spoil too much. I'll let you're the expert here, but really the Columbus Fire Department is in a really great spot when it comes to staff.
Yeah, I think people have heard it in news reports, and there's a lot of truth to that volunteer fire service is having problems getting people to join. We're in a rear. I always brag up my department that our members, we have a great staff. We're at 38 members, 40 being full staff. I have 3 applications, maybe a 4th coming, so we could possibly be at full staff in a couple months again with a waiting list, which is a rarity in the fire service. And I've had neighbors in other parts of the state that have asked me to come and talk with them and ask me what we're doing. And I think it's once again, I think it's empowering your people. I empower my officers to do what their job descriptions say. We listen to our members. We don't, I don't make the decisions, but sometimes I have to.
You have to wear the chief badge.
Yes, sometimes it has to come to that, but most of the time the guys talk about it, and girls, they sit and talk about it and come to a decision, bring it to me, and 90% of the time I say go ahead. So I think that's part of the culture that we've built there, and it's enjoyable for like members are telling their friends it's a great place to be. Where in other communities maybe they don't have that culture, and that's maybe where some of the difficulties are coming in.
Now, when at the Columbus Fire Department, we didn't have a chance to talk about this beforehand, but I always like to ask if this is something that's available for the youth in the community. Is there like a cadets program or some sort of program or scholarship opportunity for youth to come in and learn about the Columbus Fire Department, or go into schools and teach them about what you guys do there, and help maybe spur some interest in young adults to look at becoming a firefighter for their career? Because it's so important to create a pipeline, I guess, for lack of a better word, to have those younger groups of people get interested in this career field and then come into it and replace those who are retiring.
Yeah, we our public education coordinator, Nathan Barnes, which is also captain on our department, he's doing a great job of he goes out to the schools, he educates them. He does all the fire prevention week stuff and smoke detectors, and he goes out there doing that and does a great job at it. And we've talked about doing a cadet program, but we're kind of in the youth movement with so many new people on. We provide a mentor. One of the officers is a mentor to a new member for the first year of probationary, so it helps them get through. They got their go-to person to talk to and help them get familiarized with how we run things at Columbus. So we've had talked about it, but we said we're so busy with that and the culture with updating bylaws and SOGs and all that stuff is, they said we're full. We can't. Once we get that under control and it's getting to that point, we may be looking at doing a cadet program, which would help with recruitment as well.
Fantastic. So yeah, definitely something that is not put out of the realm of possibility, but it sounds like there's, and I don't say this lightly at all, anytime somebody's in that field, there is a lot on your plate that you have to do. For those who work in the fire department, fire departments, police departments, it's an ongoing, nonstop job that requires a lot of time and energy to put into it. So yeah, that's when you say that there's enough on your plate, I feel like a lot of people would believe that there's enough there to stay busy with. When it comes to apparatus at the Columbus Fire Department, how is that currently situated there?
We're doing okay. Like everything else and everybody else in the nation is dealing with is pricing.
Yeah.
We have an engine on order that costs us over $1 million that we all just kind of, sat back in our chairs and like, how are we going to pay for this? So that one is a 50-50. We have a rural group that covers that we we cover all our parts of 6 townships. They have a rural group and then the city, so that's like a 50-50 truck. It's our rural engine we're replacing. And everybody's struggling for funding. So some of the trucks are starting to get they're excess over 20 years old. We got a tower going to be 30 years old in 2027. So that's probably going to be our next big purchase. So it's, I don't know how the city is going to come up with the funds for. They'll figure it out, but it's just something. We're having to struggle as well because my other job. Everything has gone up so much.
Yeah, it's a ongoing conversation between fire departments and city leaders and those on the common council, village board, or however the local government situated. That trying to find funding is so important. That's why I'm sure when it comes to donations and those who help out in that capacity, that's always a welcome sight. I know just recently we got a press release from Jared Fox highlighting a recent donation that allowed the Columbus Fire Department to purchase and update their attack hose lines, and I'm sure that was just donations like that are so important to help out your agency.
Yeah. Jared did a great job of that. That happened. Ironically, that happened when we had our fatal fire here like a month or two ago. I think it's a month ago. Yeah, because I was on vacation. I got married. I was up in Washington Island, and I got informed of what was going on. They filled me in. And when I got back, Jared said he had a person from Columbus Chemical was on scene as an onlooker, and Richard Sheard. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I couldn't think of his name for a second here. I was having a 60s moment. He asked a question to Jared. He said, so why all the different colored hoses? So Jared explained it to him. And I think maybe our assistant chief, Darren Miller, might have been too. I'm not sure. But he's told them all different colors. He says, well, how come that's supposed to be white? Why is it gray? He said, well, because we have expired hose that's over 17 years old. We have a bunch of it like that. And, just trying to put that in a budget is tough with everything else that we have to keep up with. And we have enough capital projects now that hose just wasn't in the works. So I was just working on, we were going to start doing a slow rotation to try to start updating the hose. So he went back and he wanted a list of how much of that very old hose we had, and stopped and came in the station and handed me a $10,000 check, and that was we were, very surprised. I was speechless at seeing the amount. So we're very thankful for that.
I think it was also interesting too to note that you mentioned the expired hose lines, but there's still a process that the fire department goes through to make sure that they are certified and that they can do the job that is necessary if you guys are called out to a fire call. So there is still processes and things in place to make sure that those hoses are still going to do the job. But like you mentioned, there is a point in time where they just aren't able to keep up with the newer hoses that are available now, and at some point those things need to be replaced. It's just getting those funds in to make sure that you guys are able to buy those and replace them when that time comes.
Yeah, and it's in my other life of sales is there's different brands, different styles of hose out there, so that's something we would take into account. They don't want to buy the Cadillac of hose because that's just too much money, but they don't want to get the cheapest either. Kind of in between. So it's a process, and then they send out for pricing to try to see who's going to give them the best deal, and then we order it up, and then we test it every year, and put it back in, and that's how we keep track of the age of our hose, and then we inventory it so we can keep a closer eye on it now.
We're talking with the Columbus Fire Chief, Scott Hazeltine, here on Community Comment. We just have a few moments left on our program this afternoon. With that time, Chief, I want to make sure we are able to get in a few comments here just about how important it is for people to check and replace batteries for smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. With everybody going around changing their clocks this weekend, it's a good time to check those things. So what's some of the important messages and things to know for our listeners heading into this weekend?
No, absolutely. I think adding carbon monoxide detectors to that as well Smoke detectors, you want to check them monthly if you can. You want one for placement. You'd like them one in each bedroom, one outside of the bedrooms. If you're going to set them on the ceiling, you want to put them like in the middle of the room. You don't want to put them close to a corner or a vent. You want to kind of place them in the middle of the room. Basement, each level of the home, you want to put one as well. Basements, right where the stairwell is, that's probably a good area to put one in. And you should check them every month to see that they're working. And they say how they want to do it on a spring and fall with the time changes, change your batteries. So good thing to do, because I know calls that I have been on, many of them, where the smoke detector wasn't working, and either the battery's dead or they had a toy or some thing that they didn't have a 9-volt for, so they took it out of the smoke detector, or it would make a chirping sound, so they just pulled it out, and so it's not running anymore. So very important. One of the things too we find out with smoke detectors is if you hear a chirping sound about every 45 seconds, that's a good sign that that battery is dead and needs to be changed. So we'll get calls that their smoke detector is going off, and that's all it is. Mm-hmm. So it just does like a small little chirp every 45 seconds. That if that smoke detector is doing something, it's telling you, give it some attention. So there's something going on.
Important things to keep in mind here with the chief of the fire department in Columbus, Scott Hazeltine. We are just about out of time here. I know there's a lot more that we could dive into. Maybe the next time we'd love to have you on again to chat more about these topics. But I want to thank our guest here on Community Comment this afternoon, Fire Chief of the Columbus Fire Department, Scott Hazeltine. Scott, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
And that will do it for today's Community Comment.
Bye.